Tonight's stories take us through 4 kinds of horror: bone, wire, blood, and memory. A drunken father is replaced by the skeleton he bought for Halloween. A scream consumes its worshiper, 1 pixel at a time. A man feeds his lovers to a vampire and finally meets someone hungrier than himself. And a house with only 3 corners erases those who step inside. 4 tales of punishment, addiction, and the thin line between what we invite in and what never leaves. Welcome to Nightmare Proof, where true horror comes alive. Here, you'll hear real stories of the strange, the disturbing, and the unexplainable. Turn down the lights, get comfortable, and prepare to face the darkness. Story 1: Skeleton on the Porch. Tommy Morgan did not have the best life. Coming from a broken home, the young one, 1 year old, only experienced the worst. His father would return home drunken like a skunk, and he would get into heated arguments with his wife over money and how, since he was the bread maker, he could do with his earnings what he saw fit. Tommy's mother would do chores around the house, her eyes red from sobbing. Tommy himself would receive whippings from his father for the slightest of offenses. It always came with the hollow assurance that it would build character. There were many things that the boy despised, his father being number 1 on his list. A day never went by in which he dreamed of getting revenge on him, but it was all but a fantasy. His father was big and stout. As far as Tommy was concerned, his father was an unconquerable Goliath to his David. Thoughts of running away crossed his mind, but he did not have the heart to abandon his mother to the brute. He thought that he would never be able to get rid of him, at least until that day. One of the few joys Tommy had in life was Halloween. On that holiday, he could discard his miserable life and become anyone he wanted to be. The candy and decorations were also a plus for him. His father, despite everything else, would at the very least spruce the house up for All Hallows Eve, with a spider made of old rags here and a papier-mâché ghost there. On a particular day, he brought home a skeleton. The skeleton was roughly his size, being 6'5" in height. It was dry with some visible cracks around the ribs and spine. It was missing a few upper teeth in the back, likely from years of wear and tear. Its hollow eye sockets were jet black and devoid of life. The bones, yellow with age, made a slight thump sound against the wall any time Tommy's dad would swing the ancient artifact back and forth. It looked absolutely fragile in his colossal hands. He explained that he got the decoration from an old antique store, bragging about how much he swindled the store owner to get the skeleton cheap. He placed the skeleton in the bench on the porch and returned inside without much thought. Resuming his drinking, once more he got into a fight with Tommy's mother this time, over her wanting new curtains. Tommy left the house and sat on the bench with the skeleton. He vented his complaints to the decorative piece, not thinking much about whether he would be heard, but he nevertheless felt at ease talking to someone. From there on out, Tommy found himself loving the skeleton. Each day he would talk to it and would take care of it. Anytime leaves would fall on it, Tommy would blow them off with a leaf blower. When it rained, Tommy covered the skeleton with rags. For a second, he could have sworn that the skeleton was receptive to his acts of kindness. During one instance, when he was gently wiping the skeleton's arm, Tommy heard whistling. From the direction he was looking, it appeared that its teeth were clattering. However, Tommy chalked it up to the wind blowing through the skeleton's mouth. Beyond his days spent with the Halloween decoration, Tommy's life continued as normal. His parents would argue over the tiniest of offenses, and his mother would resume doing chores around the house with tear-streaked eyes. Tommy would continue to receive beatings that his father thinly veiled as discipline. During dinner, Tommy accidentally dropped a glass, causing it to fall on the floor and break into a million pieces. As his father was beating him, there was a sudden thumping coming from the porch. Alarmed, the 3 paused to listen to the sudden noise. Whatever was out there paced back and forth on the porch, stomping as hard as its foot would allow. With bated breath, Tommy's father approached the door, opened it, only to see the skeleton in its sitting position. Once more, it was attributed it to the culprit being the wind. For the next few days, the thumping would continue. The repetition ate away at Tommy's father, spurring him to leave home and remain out for longer hours. In his dreams, he was tormented by the skeleton. He would find himself in bed, alone. The skeleton appears at the foot of his bed, and it slides over his body, just coming short of his neck. His dad would wake up with a jolt and refuse to sleep the rest of the night. However, Tommy's dreams were starkly different. He would receive sweets and other confections, and his father would be far away. The skeleton would stand by looking at him in the distance. Eventually, Tommy's dad couldn't take it anymore, and during a stormy night, he gathered the skeleton and tossed it in the back of his truck with little hesitation. Poor Tommy was awakened from his deep slumber, only to see the skeleton that he cherished being driven away. He ran to the door, but the truck bolted to life and bucked its way off the driveway. Heartbroken, Tommy returned to his bedroom and cried himself to sleep. The next day, his father returned, and so did the skeleton. Surprised at first, Tommy was grateful that his friend was back. Even more bizarre, his father was kinder. When Tommy accidentally broke a plate, instead of the whipping he was anticipating, he was instead given a stern but fair warning about how he could have hurt himself. There were no more arguments over money, which meant that his mother was now at peace. Their marriage also improved, and the two seemed more in love with each other in all the years of their life. However, Tommy couldn't help but notice that his father was acting weird. He moved around as if he were a stranger in his own skin. His legs would wobble and knees buckle from the smallest of movements. Sometimes the skin around his face would slide, forcing him to push it back up with his spare hand. His jaw would hang agape as he ate, which translated to shoving food into his mouth at the back of his throat. Tommy learned the truth on Halloween. When he stared at the skeleton on the bench, there were no cracks on the ribs. In fact, instead of being ancient, the skeleton appeared to be fresh and, dare say, even more lifelike than before. It even had a full set of teeth. Shocked, Tommy turned to look at his father, who stared at him for what seemed like an eternity, before giving a wink. Story 2. The Screen. The screen glows. The screen waits. Its light an altar. Its light a wound. I kneel before it, eyes open, eyes burning. The glow enters me, seeps into marrow, baptizes my ruin. Holy light, unholy fire. It names me in silence. It marks me in light. My skin reflects its radiance. My bones drink its fire. I whisper to it, mouth against glass, breath fogging its face. It does not answer. It does not leave. The scroll begins. The scroll devours, each motion a prayer. Image after image, face after face, body after body. I move through it as through a graveyard, touching each stone with my thumb, each face with my thumb. My thumb is priest, my thumb is executioner. It gives me too much, it gives me nothing. A rosary without end, a litany without mercy. I starve, yet I feast. I am sated, yet I ache. Every glimpse a wound, every wound a gift. Desire spills from me like ash. Grief thickens in my throat like honey. My eyes swell with brightness. My chest caves with ash. Every image a wound, every wound a jewel. I bleed and I shine. I kneel and I fall. The scroll consumes me. Beneath the glow I unravel. Skin softens to wax. Eyes hollow with fire. My breath shivers in the glass. The scroll swallows me whole, pixel by pixel, bone by bone. The wires hum. The circuits sing. They thread themselves through me, veins of copper, arteries of light. I feel their heat in my flesh, coursing like blood, burning like devotion. The machine is inside me. I am machine. The cables tighten. They bind me tenderly, and they embrace like a lover, like a chain. My blood runs with signal. My heart beats with static, and my nerves burn with prayer. I am network. I am ruin. The wires feed on me, yet I cling to them like a lover. The circuits burn me, yet I beg them for more. I am offered up. I am consumed. Holy current, unholy flame. The screen glows. The scroll devours. The wires hum. The machine waits. I give it my hours. I give it my eyes. I give it my ruin. Holy machine. My God, my wound, my beloved. Take me. Refuse me. Consume me again. Story 3. Jeremy is a cuck. Jeremy is a cuck, and his latest girlfriend, Anya. He confessed to her after 6 months of dating that he enjoys watching his girlfriend with other men. Anya, due to her love for Jeremy, agreed to such conditions. Anya was in love with Jeremy, who had a good job and a great life. She was prepared to please him. When Jeremy took Anya to the guy she was going to get intimate with in front of Jeremy, she was a bit worried, but she kept thinking about her whole life with Jeremy. Jeremy really liked Anya, and they had a lot in common. When Jeremy took Anya to see the guy she was going to get intimate with in the hotel room, there was nervousness. Jeremy reassured her that everything was going to be okay. It was nighttime on a Monday night, and everything was silent and slow. When she got to the hotel room, it was all dark and cold. In the corner was a shadowy figure. The figure in the dark came out, and it was a vampire. It took Anya and drank her blood dry. Jeremy got paid another huge lump sum, and he has another 6 months to find another person to bring to the vampire so it can drink them dry. Jeremy found that pretending to be a cuck brings people to him, and they don't assume anything dangerous. I mean, who is scared of cucks? The deal he has with a vampire is that he brings someone new to the vampire every 6 months, or the vampire will take Jeremy. He also gets well paid by the vampire when he brings someone new to it. The vampire has lived a long life and has a long resistance to thirst, but after 6 months, the old vampire needs to drink something quick and instant. Then Jeremy met Nicole, and it seemed like he was going to do a repeat. Jeremy waited to tell her about him being a cuck after nearly 6 months, but was surprised when Nicole had told Jeremy that she was a cuck herself, and she enjoyed watching her boyfriend sleep with other women. Jeremy knew what this was, and he then told her that he himself was also a cuck, and he enjoyed watching his girlfriends getting intimate with other men. Nicole and Jeremy now knew both of them were in the same business. They didn't want to admit it though, and they knew it would mean death if they allowed the other to lead them somewhere. Both are nearing to 6 months in the relationship. Then Jeremy allowed Nicole to lead him to the hotel room. He knew there would be a vampire, so he secretly brought with himself some weapons. The other woman in the hotel room was staring at Jeremy. Then Jeremy, without hesitation, started stabbing her. Nicole cried out, "What are you doing?" Jeremy found that this other woman was no vampire, but just an ordinary woman. Nicole was an honest cuck. Story 4. The Field House. The Field House. The Field House only has 3 corners. That's what David told me on that cozy October evening. It was the 27th, I believe. We had been brainstorming all afternoon about what to do for Halloween. We felt that we had grown too old for trick-or-treating, but still, we were not quite ready to give up on celebrating our beloved holiday. We could watch a movie, I had said, but David wasn't too keen on that. It wasn't scary enough, he claimed. He told me that he wanted to do something that would really get us scared, terrified, and that he didn't think we could get that from sitting on a sofa, watching yet another slasher. He told me about this place 6 miles out of town. A large grassy field, hidden away inside an old pine forest. He told me about this house that stood in the middle of the field. An old house, which, according to him, had been built by a hunter and his family back in the 1600s. One day, he said, for seemingly no reason at all, the hunter had locked both his wife, his children, and himself in the basement, and none of them were ever heard from again. I asked him where he'd learned about this field house, to which he told me that Jack, his older brother, had told him. We could probably convince Jack to take us there, he said. He has always been curious about what's inside. It's a shame he's such a massive coward. David laughed. I didn't know Jack all that well. He was a senior, and both me and David were freshmen. I had seen him a couple times when visiting David, though, and since he was the only one of us with a driver's license, we agreed on asking Jack. What did you mean when you said that the field house only has 3 corners? I asked David. Oh, I have no idea, he said. I was just reciting whatever Jack had told me. It was getting late, so we agreed that David would ask Jack to take us there after getting home. We would plan the rest at school tomorrow. Jack had agreed to take us, although he was a bit reluctant. David told me that Jack had actually visited the field house a few years back, with a couple of his friends, but that he had been too scared to even step through the door. Jack doesn't talk about it much, he said. I don't think his friends found anything in there, though. They didn't even do it on Halloween. If you want weird stuff to happen, you should seek it out during Halloween. I liked weird and spooky stuff a lot at that age, but nowhere near as much as David did. I liked the movies, myths, and horror stories a lot, but David found them dull. He wanted the real deal. He liked camping in the woods at night, visiting old, haunted houses, and watching those weird extreme horror films that almost seem illegal. He told me about those films from time to time, but I can't recall any of them. I was never on his level in that regard, but I was intrigued by the idea, the experience of true horror. Looking back, I guess that's why I agreed in the first place. Besides, I had never seen a house with only 3 corners. We really didn't do much those next few days. We had school, of course, but neither me nor David were above skipping the last couple hours if we had something else that we would rather do. I spent those final couple days leading up to Halloween reading old Edgar Allan Poe stories and watching slashers. I think David spent most of the time playing some zombie game on his Sega Genesis. Ghoul Patrol, or something. Maybe it was something else. It's getting hard to remember. It was a cool Saturday morning when I woke up on the 31st. David came over shortly after breakfast, and we spent the day speculating about what the field house might look like. Would it be all rotten and worn? Would it have a bunch of dusty old furniture? Would the door to the basement be unlocked? After all this speculation, we packed our things and went to David's place to play on his Sega. Are you sure Jack wants to give us a ride? I asked. Doesn't he have any plans himself? David laughed. Of course he doesn't have any plans. He's a total dweeb. If anything, we're doing him a favor by getting him out of the house. We drove out just as the sun was beginning to set. David insisted it needed to be pitch black out if we wanted anything to happen. Me, having gotten myself placed thoroughly in the spirit of Halloween over the last couple days, agreed. About 10 minutes after leaving David's place, we were parked at a gas station parking lot right outside of the pine forest. Jack told us that the field house could be reached in a matter of a couple minutes, but that he didn't want to come along with us. Something about needing to do some homework. Sure, Jack. Homework, David said. Anyways, thanks for the ride. We'll be back in an hour or so. We grabbed the flashlights that we had brought along and headed into the woods. It was still early enough that we could see clearly without needing to turn on the lights, and sure enough, after having walked for only 5 or so minutes, we reached a large, barren field. There was hardly a sound to be heard as we stepped out on the field. No birds, no buzzing insects, nothing besides the calm rustling of the tall grass around us, and about 100 yards in front of us stood a small wooden house. We briskly approached the little house. Looking at it, it was hard to believe that there was even supposed to be a basement in this place. We took a little lap around it, and that's when we realized that what Jack had said was true. The house appeared to be perfectly square, but as we walked around it, we noticed that the old wooden door that served as the only entrance appeared after only passing 2 walls. I was, to put it mildly, very off-put by this, and I had no desire to enter the house. I looked at David, hoping that his expression would mirror mine, but the boy was smiling from ear to ear. Well, isn't this just the strangest thing? He said. Come on, let's go inside. We went inside. There was only one room, but it was completely dark, as there were no windows to let any light in. This room appeared to function much like the outside. It looked like a square, but there were clearly only 3 distinct corners. It's difficult to explain, especially since so many years have passed, but even when standing with my back to the door, there would only ever be 2 corners visible at once. We knew that there must have been 2 out of view, but no matter how we turned around, trying to look at all the corners at the same time, we could never describe more than 3. Suddenly, David said something odd. Hey man, I think I see the basement door. I asked him what he was on about. The only thing in the room, as far as I could tell, were a couple loose planks and sticks laying on the ground. Yeah, no man, I definitely see it. It's right over there, he said. He pointed at one of the walls. an empty, barren wall. "I'm gonna go down there," he said. I was half laughing at this point, assuming that he was just pulling my leg, as he so often did, when I heard a loud yell from outside. "Time to head back, boys. It's getting really dark, and this place gives me the creeps." "Phew, it's just Jack," I said, relieved. "All right, David, guess it's time to go. Real strange place you decided on here." I turned around, looking back into the empty room. "David?" Just as I did, a hand placed itself upon my shoulder, and I almost jumped. "I told your parents I'd get you back home before it got too dark, man. Let's go." I looked at him, confused. "Jack, did you see David sneak out through the door? It looks like he just vanished into thin air." "Who's David?" Jack asked, confused. "Come on, get back in the car. Your parents gave me $10 to have you home before it got too dark out, and now it's pitch black." I froze, right there in the doorframe. "What the hell are you talking about, Jack?" "David, your little brother? The guy whose idea it was to come out here in the first place." Jack let out a chuckle. "I don't know what you've been smoking, but the only reason I'm out here is because your parents paid me to give you a ride. Let's go." Jack turned around and started walking back to the car. I waited a bit, looking frantically in and around the house before running after him, afraid that he would go out of sight and I wouldn't be able to get back, even now, even all these years later, as my memories of David are slowly starting to dissolve. That last question still lingers with me, that final conversation between me and Jack in the car. I had asked him, "Hey, Jack, how many friends did you come out here with, back when you first visited?" Once again, he gave me this weird glance. "I told you when you asked on the way out," he said. "I came out here alone." Thank you for watching Nightmare Proof. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to keep the nightmares alive. Have a story of your own? Send it in, and you may hear it here next time. Until then, sleep well, if you can.